Intelligent officer turned politician, Vladimir Putin is one of the most powerful and remarkable figures in world politics. During his 2 decades in power, Putin has made changes that affected not only Russia but the entire world, for better or worse. To learn more about Putin's life and the journey of presidents from their inauguration to retirement, check out Commander-in-Chief Chronicles. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all of our latest videos. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin was born on October 7, 1952, in Leningrad, Russia, now St. Petersburg, to Maria Ivanovna Shelemova, a factory worker, and Vladimir Spiridonovich Putin, a conscript in the Soviet Navy. Following the deaths of their 2 boys, Putin attended primary school 193 at Baskov Lane, near his home. Putin studied German at St. Petersburg High School 281 and speaks German as a second language. He was completing his early education in 1970. He was considered as a troublemaker, not a pioneer by his teachers. Vladimir Putin studied law at Leningrad State University, graduating in 1975. Then, he joined the KGB, Committee for State Security, training at the 401st KGB School in Nokta, Leningrad. Once he had completed the training, he worked in the Second Chief Directorate, and later, he was transferred to the First Chief Directorate. For further training, he attended Yuri Andropov Red Banner Institute in Moscow in 1984. Putin married flight attendant Lyudmila Shkrebneva and had 2 daughters in 1985 and 1986, with the second child being born in Dresden, Germany. He worked as a translator for the local intelligence office in Dresden from 1985 to 1990 until the fall of the Communist East German government. After returning to Leningrad in 1990, Putin oversaw KGB recruits and students in the International Affairs section of Leningrad State University. He resigned from the KGB with the rank of a lieutenant colonel in 1991 after reuniting with his former professor, Anatoly Sobchak, who became the mayor of Leningrad. Anatoly Sobchak became the first democratically elected mayor of Leningrad. Putin was appointed as an advisor on international affairs to the mayor, later becoming the head of the Committee for External Relations until 1996, when Sobchak lost the re-election in St. Petersburg. He was appointed as the first deputy mayor of St. Petersburg in 1994. Putin moved to Moscow in 1996 and was appointed by President Boris Yeltsin as the deputy chief of the Presidential Property Management Department under Pavel Borodin. He remained in the position until May 1998. During 1996 to 1998, he served in the presidential staff and as first deputy chief. Yeltsin appointed Putin as FSB director in 1998 and later as acting prime minister in 1999. Yeltsin named Putin his successor, and he became prime minister with State Duma that gained 233 votes in favor of Putin's appointment. Putin pledged his support to the Unity Party, which had been newly formed, and this led to its success in the December 1999 Duma elections. When Yeltsin unexpectedly resigned, he announced Putin to be the acting president in 1999. Following the election in March 2000, which Putin won with 53% of the votes, he inaugurated as president on the 7th of May 2000. During his first presidential term from 2000 to 2004, Putin reasserted control over the 89 regions and republics of Russia and divided them into 7 federal districts. As president, Putin appointed representatives to govern the districts. He gained popularity due to his successful military strategy in the Second Chechen War and his handling of the Moscow theater hostage crisis in 2002. Putin aimed to create a well-regulated market economy, fighting corruption and struggling against the Russian oligarchs. Russia's economy grew remarkably during his tenure. Putin pledged Russia's assistance to the U.S. in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks and cooperated with American-led rescue missions and anti-terrorism campaigns. With 71% of the votes, Vladimir Putin was re-elected to presidency on the 14th of March 2004. For the improvement of healthcare, education, and housing systems, and for developing the agricultural aspects of the country, national priority projects were launched under Putin's rule in 2005. During this time period of his second presidency, he was criticized for some of his decisions and incidents. In December 2007, Putin's party, United Russia, won the parliamentary elections with 64.24% of the votes. The fairness of this election was questioned by the Communist Party of the Russian Federation as well as the international observers. When Vladimir Putin was precluded from a third term of presidency, he stepped down in 2008, announcing Dmitry Medvedev as his successor. When Medvedev won the presidential election in March 2008, he nominated Putin, who was the chairman of United Russia Party, as the prime minister in May 2008. Within hours of Medvedev's inauguration, Vladimir Putin was able to maintain his dominance in Russian politics through this movement. Irregularities and accusations of vote rigging in the parliamentary elections in December caused a wave of protests among Russians against Putin. He faced strong opposition in the race for the presidency. Despite these oppositions, Putin won the election in March 2012 and was elected as the president of Russia for a third term. He resigned as the chairman of United Russia, and the party was handed over to Dmitry Medvedev. When Putin inaugurated as president on May 7, 2012, he nominated Medvedev as the prime minister. Many anti-Putin protests took place during this presidential campaign as well as after the campaign. The Pussy Riot performance being the most well-known protest. On the 6th of May 2012, approximately 8,000 to 20,000 protesters gathered in Moscow. On the first day of his third term as the president, he issued 14 presidential decrees, consisting of long-term goals for education, defense industry, housing, skilled labor training, and concerning Russia's relations with the European Union, among other policy areas. In 2014, during Putin's third term, Russian forces invaded Ukraine and took control of the strategic positions in Crimea and Sevastopol. A popular vote resulted in Crimea joining the Russian Federation. Ukrainian military later reported movements of Russian troops and equipment in rebel-controlled areas of eastern Ukraine. In September 2015, under the formal request by the Syrian government, Putin agreed the interference of the Russian military in the Syrian civil war and jihadist groups. The Russian military aided the Syrian government with airstrikes and cruise missile strikes against the rebels. Russia also supplied frontline advisors and Russian Army Special Forces against militant groups like Syrian Opposition and Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Putin began his fourth presidential term on May 7, 2018, after winning the presidential election with 76% of the votes. He formed a new government with Dmitry Medvedev, but announced that he wouldn't be running for the 2024 elections. However, after constitutional amendments were suggested, the entire government, including Medvedev, resigned on January 15, 2020. Putin nominated Mikhail Mishustin as the new prime minister, who was confirmed without any votes against. In February 2022, Putin launched a full-scale invasion in Ukraine, which was met with the international condemnation. Hundreds of thousands of lives were lost in the Russo-Ukrainian War since February 2022. Vladimir Putin can be characterized as a person who focuses on order and conservative with ideology of national greatness. Wow, thanks for tuning in. If you're hungry for more fascinating tales about the remarkable journeys of our world leaders, then make sure to hit that subscribe button.